Hello everyone and welcome back. You join me today on my computer. We got a recent commission from Bill from FlatBroke Garage to do his Falcarino. Now, that wouldn't normally be a problem except that nobody makes a four-door. So I'm going to show you how we're going to make a four-door out of a two-door. I don't think it's going to be too difficult. There's only a few minor changes between the two bodies. I've been highlighting them as I've been speaking. The biggest one of these changes, though, is probably going to be the window. You see, even the roof lines are just about the same, but we're going to have to obviously add a rear door. I happen to have a model of a 70 Torino sitting on my desk, so let's give it a shot. Now, as I just said, the biggest physical change is probably going to be the rear window. I have to get this body line from that body line. Well, let's get to it. This Torino body has actually been sitting on my desk for over a year. I had planned on using it as Dalton from Pole Barn Garage's dad's Torino, but that never came to fruition, so we've got an extra body. You can cross your fingers that I haven't lost any of the pieces over the last year, but that may be an exercise in futility. Actually, I do see another thing already that we're going to have to alter. The Falcarino doesn't have a shaker hood, so that hole's got to be filled in. Alright, since there's no teardown involved, let's get this thing off to the goo and cleaned up. While I rinse it off and clean it up, let me put out a disclaimer for later. This model is probably going to turn out just a hair darker than it is in real life. That's okay though. Bill was happy with it, so I'm happy with it. We're coming up on the part where Torino purists are probably going to start to cringe. If you're a Ford guy, you'll probably want to look away. So what I'm doing is actually using the cutting wheel as a grinder. My plan is to take the metal off layer by layer so that I don't take off too much. Yeah, I think that's starting to look pretty good. Well, accurate anyway. That body sure did clean up nice. Now you see what I'm thinking here, folks? There's our B-pillar. Now, of course I forgot to record filling it in, but I had to fill in the gap on the existing door so that I could create a second one. I'm going to let the two-part epoxy dry just a little bit, and then I'm going to try to smooth it out so that I know that it fills in the gaps. While the filler sets on the door part of the body, I'm going to figure out what I have to do on this hood. I'll press the nearly dried body filler down into the crack of the door so that once I start grinding it off, it comes off smooth. I know that it looks pretty rough right now, but once I grind it down smooth, it'll look much better. What do you say we get out the paddle wheel and get to it? I don't care what you say, you have to admire my camera work. Yeah, that doesn't look too terrible. I'll get it cleaned up again with a polishing wheel and then get it into primer. Here's another disclaimer for later. I may catch some grief for not putting them on there, but the door gaps at 1/64 scale are 0.1 millimeters. That's why I didn't put them on there. Also, until just now, I had forgotten to grind off the tail fins, so that's what I'm doing now. Well, there you go, folks. Nice and smooth. I know that I said that I was going to send it off to primer just a bit ago, but I forgot to fill in the shaker hood. You know, if it weren't for the mess, this two-part epoxy would be really handy. There may or may not have been a little too much excess on this hood. You see, the hood on the Falcarino actually does have those two indentations on either side of it, but it doesn't have the shaker. I need to make sure that those indentations aren't filled in for a little more accuracy. I'll have to pull out the dental tools and get that excess filler out of them. Here's a top tip for anybody that's planning on doing this kind of work. Get yourself some dental tools. They are really, really handy. Just make sure you don't use your wife's dental tools. Yeah, let's get that excess body filler out of those indentations. That is, if my giant sausage fingers will cooperate. Also, since I'm not going to be putting an engine in this one, I'm going to glue the hood down. Alrighty, one final paddle wheel and I think we're finally ready for primer. Yep, I'm satisfied with that. Let's get it off to paint and primer, finally. I will say that I did get pretty lucky with the interior and the frame. Neither one of them need much work done. I robbed some wheels and axles off of a Fox Body Police Interceptor, so all they'll need is paint. They've even got the proper center caps. Well, looks like this one might actually be a roller, folks. Now, how are we going to handle that B-pillar? Well, this. What I'm planning on doing is taking a tiny piece of PLA from a previous print that I did, cutting it down to size, and then putting it in as the B-pillar. It's tedious work, but it's not terrible. I'll just have to make sure that the B-pillars are in line with one another and a far enough distance away from the A and C pillars to make it look accurate. Would you look at that? The illusion is complete. If you're wondering where all this patina came from on the car, you can thank Foggy for it. I had a nice long section of video that my device simply couldn't process. We'll just call it magic. Now I'm going to use the same paint that I used on the body for the B-pillars and the rear valence. Then we'll start getting this thing put back together. I did want to show you a little bit of my wife's talent with the paintbrush though. Just look at that rim. Alright, you've suffered enough. Let's get on to the glamour shots.